The wind howled like a chorus of lost souls, carrying with it an icy chill that cut through flesh and bone. It was the kind of night where the cold seemed alive, creeping into every crevice, wrapping its fingers around anyone foolish enough to venture outside. The town of Black Hollow, nestled deep in the mountains, was no stranger to harsh winters, but this night felt different, darker. Emma and her friends, Jason and Claire, had gathered in her family's old cabin for a weekend getaway. The place was isolated, surrounded by dense forests and towering peaks. The perfect spot, Jason had joked, for a night of ghost stories. But as the fire crackled and shadows danced on the walls, the mood shifted from playful to uneasy. "I heard a story about this place," Jason began, leaning forward. His voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. "They say the woods around here are cursed. Something about a witch who was burned alive centuries ago. They say she still haunts these parts, luring travelers to their doom." Claire rolled her eyes. "Seriously, Jason? A witch? That's the best you've got?" Jason smirked. "Laugh all you want, but people have gone missing here. Locals say they hear whispers in the wind calling their names. Those who follow the voices, they're never seen again." Emma shivered, though she wasn't sure if it was Jason's story or the relentless wind outside. "Maybe we should change the subject," she said, glancing toward the window. The frost on the glass seemed to pulse, as if something on the other side was breathing. "Too late," Jason said with a grin. "The story's already out there." Later that night, as the others slept, Emma lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The cabin creaked and groaned, settling under the weight of snow. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching her. She told herself it was just Jason's stupid story, but the unease gnawed at her. A faint sound drifted through the room, a whisper. It was so soft, so subtle, that she thought she might have imagined it. But then it came again, clearer this time. "Emma!" Her breath caught in her throat. She sat up, heart pounding, and scanned the room. Jason and Claire were still asleep, their breathing steady. The whisper came again, and this time, it seemed to come from outside. "Emma!" She crept to the window and peered out into the night. The forest was a labyrinth of shadows, the trees swaying like skeletal hands in the wind. For a moment, she saw nothing. But then, just beyond the tree line, a figure appeared. It was a woman, her silhouette stark against the snow. She wore a tattered dress, her hair wild and unkempt. Emma blinked, and the woman was gone. The next morning, Emma told Jason and Claire what she had seen. Jason laughed it off, but Claire looked uneasy. "I don't know," Claire said. "Maybe we should leave. This place gives me the creeps." Jason scoffed. "Come on, Claire, it's just a story." Emma probably just dreamed it. But Emma knew she hadn't imagined it. And as the day wore on, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. That night, the whispers returned. This time, they were louder, more insistent. They called not just for Emma, but for Jason and Claire as well. "Come to me." The voice was soft, almost soothing, but there was an undercurrent of malice that made Emma's skin crawl. She tried to ignore it, to block it out, but the whispers grew louder, more urgent. "Come to me." Jason woke with a start. "Did you hear that?" he asked, his voice shaky. Claire nodded, her face pale. "It's the wind," she said, though she didn't sound convinced. But Emma knew better. "It's her," she whispered, "the woman I saw." Jason frowned. "That's ridiculous. There's no—" A loud thud interrupted him. It came from the roof, followed by the sound of something dragging across the shingles. The three of them froze, their eyes wide with fear. "What the hell was that?" Claire whispered. Before anyone could answer, the front door creaked open. A blast of icy wind swept through the cabin, extinguishing the fire. The room plunged into darkness. "Stay together," Jason said, his voice trembling. He fumbled for his flashlight and turned it on. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing the open door. Snow swirled in the entryway, but there was no sign of anyone or anything. And then they heard it. Footsteps, slow and deliberate, coming from the second floor. "But we're the only ones here," Claire said, her voice barely audible. Jason tightened his grip on the flashlight. "Stay here," he said. "I'll check it out." "No way," Emma said. "We stick together." Reluctantly, Jason nodded, and the three of them made their way upstairs. The footsteps continued, leading them to the attic door. It was slightly ajar, a faint light spilling out. "No way," Emma said. "We stick together." Reluctantly, Jason nodded, and the three of them made their way upstairs. The footsteps continued, leading them to the attic door. It was slightly ajar, a faint light spilling out. Jason pushed the door open, and the flashlight illuminated the attic. It was empty, save for a single rocking chair in the center of the room. It creaked back and forth, as if someone had just been sitting in it. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind them. The whispers returned, louder than ever, echoing all around them. "Come to me." The rocking chair stopped abruptly. A shadowy figure emerged from the corner of the room, its form shifting and flickering like a flame. It was the woman Emma had seen, but her face was twisted, her eyes hollow and black. "You shouldn't have come here," the woman hissed. Her voice was a cacophony of whispers, each one more chilling than the last. Jason raised the flashlight, but the beam flickered and died. The room was plunged into darkness, and the whispers became a deafening roar. Emma felt something cold wrap around her wrist, pulling her toward the woman. She screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the whispers. Jason and Claire tried to grab her, but they were thrown back by an unseen force. "Leave!" the woman shrieked. "Leave, or you will never escape!" With a surge of adrenaline, Emma broke free and stumbled toward the door. Jason and Claire followed, and the three of them bolted down the stairs and out into the snow. They didn't stop running until they reached the edge of the forest. When they finally looked back, the cabin was gone. In its place was a snow-covered clearing, silent and empty. Years later, Emma would still dream of the whispers of the woman in the woods. She never returned to Black Hollow, and neither did Jason or Claire. But on cold, windy nights, when the wind howled like a chorus of lost souls, Emma couldn't help but wonder, was the woman still out there, waiting for her next visitor?